And that's why they say, because I remember my dad used to tell me, like, two things. Always, wherever you go, whether you're at a doctor's office, always pick up something to read. Because now you expand in terms of thoughts and different things. Just, it could be anything. It could be anything, the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah.
So then you understand why the whole
And which war is that?
And just small things. You don't have to be an expert in it.
Yes.
And the next thing is just talk to guys. You'll be so surprised about people's journeys.
Yes.
You know?
That's true.
It could even be like, maybe you're waiting for something, just talk to the watchman. By the way, the guy will tell you some other stories about his life.
Yeah.
And at some point, you'll be like, by the way, that guy told me this. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I was at Kengele's and the waiter who serves, I'm a regular there. He's called Sam, and Sam was like, he's like, school fee. Yeah, guys are back to school. I'm like, by the way, Sam, you told me you have 5 kids. He's like, yeah. Then we went into a whole conversation about that.
Yeah.
Like, one is going to junior,
Yeah.
Like, I start to think about it. I'm like, I think I can at least maybe afford 1 or 2 kids. But I don't have any kids.
1 or 2 kids of Sam's kids or yours?
No. Like in terms of, I think. I'm in this middle class thing, right? And he has 5 kids. And I'm just wondering, I'm like, because I've always been like, am I ready? Am I grown enough to be able to usher in this human being and be able to shield them from the world's, things? But anyway, going back to the story I was saying, like my sis, she sits down with this guy. There's school homework, and then there's something she calls mama's work. She sits down and writes like, Kevin has 3 apples. Yani she does a whole other set. And you can see it translate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like she's deliberate about it. And there's no other way to do parenting, honestly. You have to be very deliberate. If you can be even laissez-faire about how you do your work, but you cannot be laissez-faire about how you parent. Because
you can't. No.
You never really get opportunities to restart. You can always restart your business. You can even quit that business again, but you cannot quit parenting and restart it again. One thing I will tell you for a fact, I don't think you can choose to be a parent who is not deliberate. And that should even inform how many kids you want to get, because it's not even ability to provide. I mean, people have been known to survive and thrive even on little. But people cannot survive and thrive and be functional with little love. So resources are not necessarily the problem, but it's literally the ability to show up and do them right.
I'm going to need a clip of you saying that, because that's very deep.
That's very deep. Right?
And we're going to need her syllabus. Use the syllabus. Please share that with us at the end as well.
Welcome to another episode of the Full Scale Podcast. We are excited to have you back. And today, we are equally excited to have a guest who is an entrepreneur in the agribusiness space, Kevin Kamau. Kevin is the founder and managing director of Tukalime. Let's Go Farm, an agribusiness company that offers farm management services to individuals, groups, and other agri-based processors and companies. Tukalime handles the whole value chain from production to market, and their mission is to create wealth through agriculture, one individual at a time. Kevin, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Asante sana.
And we are looking forward to the exciting nuggets and conversations we're going to have.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself. Give us a brief introduction of yourself, who you are, what you're about, what your hobbies are, what are your quirks. If you want to tell us your quirks. Yeah.
Kevin Kamau, born and raised in Kenya. Mm-hmm. Turning 40 this year. It feels every morning there's a weird place that hurts. It's
You're exaggerating, but
no,
okay.
I'm serious. I'm serious. I'll tell you guys, I've been trying to go to the gym, and then nowadays I move my shoulder, you just feel something clicking, and I'm just like, I think I need to focus on mobility and not a six-pack. But anyway. Okay. Went to school here in Nairobi. I don't get as Nairobi as it gets because even my folks were born in Nairobi. So even when people were saying they are going up country, I used to be very jealous because guys used to go on road trips and stuff. For me, I could go to each grandma's place. Like I could go for breakfast and lunch the same time. So But yeah, born and raised in Nairobi. Family of three. We are three siblings. My bro, my sis, and I. I keep saying I think I grew up in a very cohesive and loving family, very liberal. And that has really guided in how I deal with things. Not married, no kids. I know we'll get into that. I know we'll talk about that behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Hobbies, I don't know.
Are you looking?
Anyway, hobbies.
Yeah.
Hobbies. I don't know. Do I have hobbies? You know, what has happened to me, I've realized is I'm becoming more of a homebody the more as time goes by. I'm content with my own space. I love being at home and maybe watching movies, really. But then I still have and maybe this came from my parents, I'll try everything at least once. So for example, yes, we did, I was just telling you guys behind the scenes in terms of I did Mount Kenya, I did Kilimanjaro in the same year.
Wow, impressive.
And it was just those things like, you just have to do it. I won't do it again because Jesus Christ. Cheers to those guys who do it multiple times, but that was just once. I did Lewa Marathon, the whole 42. Again, I would also not do it again.
Impressive. Hey.
But it's not, and for me, it's not about the finishing in terms of, what was my time and stuff like that. It's just that I did it. It's done, so you stick it off and you go. I mean, I think this world, God has given us the opportunity to live in this world, to explore it. So it's quite a disservice if you do not.
Interesting.
100%.
Interesting.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So in general, I think I'm very laid back, and sometimes I feel friends and family will probably say sometimes I'm too laid back in terms of I don't fuss over a lot of things. I have a birthday coming up and I'm just like, most people want to do these grand things and stuff. My love language is more gifting than receiving the gift. I'm not, kind of thing. I'm just, let's meet up, let's have a few drinks, let's have a few laughs, and it's perfect.
Awesome.
But that's who I am in general. Yeah.
You make a perfect guest. Relax, chill, no
Chill,
fuss.
yeah. It's
We
going to
love
take
it.
it easy, yeah? No pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So tell us about Tukalime. Maybe what that is, what you do. Yeah.
So just as I was talking about the growing up, I mean, after high school, I spent 2 years in Uganda for my A-levels. And then I went to the US for 10 years. I studied economics and finance. At some point in my life, I had realized that, especially when I came back to Kenya when I was 30. Then I realized that actually I've spent most of my adulthood outside. You get what I'm saying? So 12 years out when I was 30. And then now I remember then I came back to Kenya because I just felt like the whole white picket fence, one dog, and you're married with a boy and a girl, it just wasn't what I desired. It wasn't the driving force. I felt like there needs to be something else you can do. Because for some people, that works perfect. I never had a situation where I thought about, like, I need to be married by 24. I have to have kids by that. That just wasn't part of my journey. So then I moved back when I was 30. That was at 2015. And Tukalime came as about of a means to an end. Because when I moved back, actually, let me rewind a little bit. So I would come visit Samabani, right?
Yeah.
And then one of my my godbrother, his name is Alex. He runs a company called Parapet. Parapet are the guys who do the cleaning. You'll find them in Sarit.
Yes,
they do a lot of embassies and stuff like that.
Yes.
He studied hotel management he's older, but he studied in Switzerland. And we were at his place and he's like, you need to come back. I'm like, and he's like, and I could see how he's living nice and stuff. He's like, and I think at that time, that's when probably the Kibaki era, there was a lot of growth.
Yes.
A lot of, I liken it to like a volcano. A lot of guys actually made their dreams come true just because the economy was opened up now for trade, for entrepreneurship and stuff.
That's
during the Moi era, I feel it was more government, I mean, it was if you're so-and-so in government, but entrepreneurs were not incubated.
Yes.
Can I say that?
No, I do get your point. I do get your point.
So so he was, leaps and bounds. And so, okay, so I came back because I saw, now you can see what's happening. And also my sister had come back also. She was in Minnesota. I was in Kansas. And she had come back because we had just lost my mom. And we had lost my dad a few years before that. So at this point, it was like, you're seeing somebody wade through the waves of life, and you can see it's possible. The comfort of the US makes you feel like nowhere else can this be possible or can it work. It makes you feel, I can call 911 and somebody will actually pick.
Yeah.
So I came back to Kenya, shop your CV here and there, no takes. And I was living with my sister. And I remember telling her, I'm like, I'm going to go crazy because this is not what I envisioned in terms of, I thought I would come back, get a job. You're thinking that you have papers from the US that guys would just be like, yes, first class education, give you a job.
You come here, we'll create room for you.
Let me first tell you.
Yeah.
Guys who studied here, actually, I feel are way, way better equipped in terms of doing the work. But the US and other, Australia, England, whatever, there's exposure, global exposure. But here, guys grind. You know what I'm saying? So you shop your CV, no takers. And so I remember we have some land in Kinangop, not too far from here. And, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go farm. I need to keep busy. Because the worst thing you can do is just be, just not do anything. Everything is a muscle, right? You have to work it out. And when I started farming, and I would post on social media, and my friends in the diaspora would be like, you know what? Our parents are getting older, and we keep sending money back home. And we feel like that's not sustainable. And also just for dignity's sakes. Can we be able to, through you expand your service, and we can invest in their shambas, and help them be able to earn an income from this, and it keeps them busy and stuff like that. And that's how Tukalime grew, actually. It didn't grow by design in terms of this is what I'm going to do. There's this gap that we need to solve. It grew from a way to be able to get income for myself. And then friends start seeing what you're doing, and they're like, can you expand and can we do this? And that's how we started. I mean, and the first client, first clients are always your relatives, yeah?
Of course.
First client was always, was actually, again, I go back, and you'll hear me mention my sis a couple of times here. And it's also because I remember when we decided to do the podcast, and when we were saying that, no, we got to save this to talk about it. It's one of the best, if there are all these Y Combinator, there's all this incubation, whatever. But I think the best incubation is usually with friends and family, because sometimes, somebody has money in terms of they're giving you, but it's an opportunity cost. Maybe they wanted to buy a new pair of shoes, maybe a new car or whatever, but them supporting you, it's not automatic. People think it's automatic, that being housed and whatever. It's them giving. So she had some land in Nyanyuki and stuff like that. She's like, go farm for, how much are you going to charge to manage this farm? And remember, I didn't study agronomy. Go farm some onions for me and I'll pay you, And then another friend of mine, he lives in Hong Kong right now. And he was just like, let's do some onions, also some watermelon, also in Nyanyuki. And by the way, both those projects failed miserably.
Okay.
Just because the fundamentals were not there.
Did you pay them back their money?
No.
Story for another day.
Another story.
But it's so interesting, just to mention this, like the incubation or the support did not stop there. So it goes deeper in terms of, this was not, it wasn't like a debt kind of thing. It was more like, we see what you're doing. We see where your heart is at, where your mind is at. We will bank on you. And this friend wrote me a check for 100,000 shillings of like, apart from the job, 100,000 shillings to be like, all right, I know you need some working capital. This is what I can afford. This is an age mate. In 2015, I mean, he has needs. He has other things to do. Young family, So it's these things come. But that's how Tukalime started.
That's
Wow.
awesome. And I think you've already touched on some of the things I wanted to get into, like your journey, how you started as a founder, how you identified the problem. So it sounds like the problem kind of revealed itself as you started going through this. But I guess on that, you mentioned sort of some of the early failures. What were the biggest challenges you faced especially in those early stages of the business?
So let me say this, like just going back to in terms of the need, it still wasn't apparent in the beginning. It was still like, I need to get an income, right? But then I realized that the problem, because remember, it was supposed to be for the diaspora to be able to manage their farms here.
Yeah.
Then I realized there's an issue there because a trust issue. Even them sending you money and stuff, it becomes a trust issue. But also the problem was bigger here because here we are in terms of, they keep saying that Kenya, we have a very young population, which is true. The millennials and Gen Z's, huge population. But in correspondence with that is also an older population in terms of baby boomers who are the custodians of wealth and land. They're the ones who have this stuff. And for us guys, we are not going into agri because remember when we were growing up, we were always told agriculture is not sexy. You're told if you don't go to school,
you'll
become a farmer.
If you don't work hard, you'll be a farmer.
We'll send you to the farm.
We'll send you to the farm.
And that stuck with us forever. So then now you have us guys earning money and having disposable income. But we don't have the land or we don't have that. So now we actually, baby boomers and us guys are kind of meeting at this point because now we're having to take care of our folks. Our folks are in their 70s right now. So that's now, it's just like revealing itself. But the challenge is, one was obvious. I was not a farmer, and how I tried to solve that is employee 001. I remember, I knew I needed somebody with the expertise to do this. And I remember going to University of Nairobi, Kabete campus and walking through the hallways and I was looking for the dean. Never met this guy, no phone calls or anything. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to be like, your top students are graduated last year. Do any of them have placement? I'm looking to hire somebody as an intern and then we see if we can employ them. But then just walking the hallways, not knowing where I'm going, I met this guy and I asked him, so where's the dean's office? And he's like, why do you need the dean? And I'm like, I need to hire somebody, an agronomist. Yeah. He's like, I just graduated. Actually, I'm here to sign off my stuff. Those things for like living certificate, you need to sign.
You need to clear
those things.
Yeah.
And he became employee number one. So that was a way to solve it. And then number two, because even though you hire the right guys, you still have to have, you need to educate yourself as a founder, right? So what we did, we went back to Kinangop. It's an acre, and we cut it into eighths, pretty much. And I did broccoli, I did potatoes, I did carrots, and that, just to see how long does it take? What are the aspects of this stuff? What are my risks? Because I needed to understand what the issue. Like now, for example, I'll just give you an example. If you do cucumbers and courgettes and stuff. So I remember my first harvest, I had this like huge cucumbers, and I'm just like, bumper harvest. And I went to zucchini. Zucchini? No, I don't care. Was this zucchini somewhere? Somewhere anyway. And I remember them saying, no, these are too big. And then now there's an education piece there. Like, no, when they get to this size, that's what we like. You cut it and bring to us.
Bring it. Okay.
You start realizing even potatoes. It's not every potato is the same. There's a different variety. There's for chips, there's for mashed potatoes.
Yes.
There's all this. So you start learning things slowly. So back to your question, first was to get a subject matter expert to try and also reduce the imposter syndrome. Yeah. You'd go to meetings and like, answer the questions. I don't know. We'll go to the invoicing part myself, Yeah. I knew how to cost in terms of that. With economics, about the factors of production, how to bring them together, your land, your capital, bring them together. And then the education piece for myself, so that if I'm in a room and this guy, his name was Martin, the agronomist, if he's not with me, at least I can answer one or two questions. So
can make sense.
That's how I did.
Yeah.
In terms of money and stuff like that, family played a very big role in this in terms of, I think I had a small Toyota Wish that I'd go to Kinangop back and forth. A little bit of running around money, as in there was no money, really, really broke. And now I think when people talk about bootstrapping, I'm like,
Yeah.
how cute. You don't know bootstrapping properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we started there. The problems.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting journey and a build up to it. And one thing that stands out really is your willingness to learn and just take yourself. I can imagine just showing up at a university saying I'm going to look for the dean.
Yeah.
And I want to employ someone who can help me. I mean,
You know, and that's the thing. We
yeah.
keep telling people, like, you could have, okay, the first thing in any process is just showing up. At least just show up.
Mm-hmm.
Then at least you have, yes, a few things going for you. But then, so that when luck is coming, at least you're ready.
Yeah, okay.
It can't find
It's a recurring theme we keep seeing here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's chance, meeting opportunity,
you have
and
to show
preparedness.
up.
Yeah.
Like now, for example, how us guys met, right?
Yeah.
And I remember asking the guys for Harbor Capital, I'm like, do I need to come for this thing? And they're like, yeah, there'll be guys and stuff that can socialize. I'm like, I could have easily just been like, I'm at home chilling, but a chance meeting in terms of meeting other entrepreneurs and stuff like that. The first thing, just show up. You never know who you meet, interactions, and you even just friendship. It doesn't have to be transactional.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's profound. So you've mentioned that you stumbled upon the idea of Tukalime.
Yeah.
But I was curious to know, were you always an entrepreneur? Did you do entrepreneurship? Did you take the entrepreneurship journey before? Or Tukalime was your first entrepreneurial venture?
It was my first entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
However, growing up, my mom used to sell clothes. There's a group of women that started in the 90s that used to buy clothes from Bangkok and Turkey. And, you have all these retail shops in town, right? And I feel like for them, they were the foundation in terms of those things. But that's the thing. Because I saw her journey, and I'm like, I was always like, no, I just want a fixed salary. I do not want this journey. But then after a while, and I was telling somebody yesterday, after a while, the fear goes. After, now, let me give you an example. I know this is jumping the gun a little bit, but I remember getting investment into Tukalime. And the first, you get a drawdown, right? So it's not, I don't know why people always think like you sign a deal for $10 million, you get the 10 million. It's always there are some milestones here and there that you need to meet. And I remember the first check for $1 million shillings. And I remember taking a picture of it. I think I still have a picture of it. I was like, oh my God, it's $1 million shillings. And then after a while, I know this sounds very, it can sound bad in terms of after a while, that million stops being your pinnacle. It stops being your mountain. When we're talking about Kilimanjaro and stuff, that stops being your, that's where you want to reach. There's a higher goal. It's a higher goal.
Exactly.
And I think if you have the drive to just, I sort of say, bottom line, you need to be, first of all, a personable person in business. You need to be able to just talk to a fly and without fearing, As long as that, then things start. And then the biggest thing is you realize if your heart is pure, even if you choma a client or something happens, as long as your intention was good and your heart is in the right place, you sleep well at night. If you're not trying to do crook behavior, then everything else is out. And that, when I realized that, because I used to get a lot of anxiety, failing people and doing this and stuff. How am I going to talk to somebody who's believed in me? Remember, you're just walking into a room and you're telling people, I'll manage your farm. And they're like, okay, I'll give you the job. And then it used to give me a lot of anxieties. I know I used to sleep well. I never used to enjoy even just going to work. But then you realize, by the way, I did my level best. It wasn't, just as long as you show up with the tools.
That's an interesting one. And then now about from the conversation, I get that you've drawn a lot of lessons as you go. A lot of lessons, including even trying your first farm and it didn't work, and having a bumper harvest and going to I think you mentioned maybe it was zucchini, and they told you it's too big. This whatever you produced is too big. We cannot perhaps put it out in the market. So I wanted to know the journey of finding a product market fit for you.
Yeah.
How has it been like for you, and how did you, find the product market fit for what you do at Tukalime?
So I think, and a lot of founders will probably mention this, it's always an evolution, all right? It's always evolving. So remember, we used to manage farms for people. And then when COVID hit, a lot of my clientele was viewed agriculture as a side hustle. They never saw it as something that you need to keep on feeding in terms of resources. So when COVID hit, the first thing what happened is clientele shrunk, because remember, we couldn't travel, so we couldn't go see these farms and stuff like that. Some guys, because their parents who are elderly lived up country, didn't want us to be coming from Nairobi and taking, understandable.
Yeah.
And then also, a lot of people lost disposable income. Remember, because it's a side hustle.
Yeah.
If your salary is slashed, then you're like you cut off the outflows.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Even for us as a company, we had to take a 60% pay cut, top to bottom. Because that discussion was, it's either we continue with full salary and then our runway gets cut pretty short, or we take a pay cut and just, because now we didn't, the first few months of COVID were actually fun because everybody was like on a leave day, and then you're like, hey, this thing is not ending, right? So that was an interesting way. So now in terms of product market fit, when we were managing people's farms, and that basically disappeared overnight, we had to go back and re-engineer. And one of our biggest marketing tools was that we can find you market for your produce. Because you can talk about all these good stories, but can you make me money? So you're going to farm potatoes for me. Are you going to be able to sell them? So what we did is, we said, how about if we convert these contracts to be exclusively Tukalime contracts? So for example, your zucchinis, your tropical heat for this world, blah, blah, blah. Can I be able to say, it's Tukalime who's going to grow this for you? And that actually, and this journey of solidifying the market access was very interesting, because I realized, by the way, market is not the issue. A lot of farmers say, hakuna soko. Market is not the issue. Because if you produce the right quality, quantity, consistency at the right price, somebody will buy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's always a market for food, especially in Kenya. We are a net importer of food. So I went around and signed $700,000 worth of contracts. And how I did that, it basically was, you meet a processor and you say, okay, fine, what do you guys use? We use potatoes. All right. How many, what do you call this? What's your quantity? Let's say we use 10 tons a day. All right. So in a week, with my knowledge, I know an acre can give you about 7 tons of potatoes. So I know I need to farm an acre a day to be able to satisfy him or her. Then I have to make sure that it's scalable to a point where the economies of scale are kicking in and my cost of production is low. Because that means, I'm not the only one growing potatoes. So then I'm competitive. Then I have to make sure my QA process in terms of selecting the seed and stuff is also on point. I have to also maybe do a value add to them in terms of telling them, maybe you guys need to use a different kind of potato than this one. So you do that extra extension service so that they look at me as a true partner. So we signed all these contracts, and then I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go raise some money because I have contracts. And that didn't work out that way. But in terms of, before we go into even the investment part, the product fit is when we went around and signed these contracts, remember, we realized the market is not the issue. The issue is people cannot get agricultural products, whether it's industrial or food crops, at the right price, at the right quantity,
quality and
consistency. They're not getting it. So if you can find a way to solve that, then you're in business.
Wow. Oh. Interesting. You literally now went to the problem that you are solving, because it's interesting that the problem was not necessarily the products being being produced. The question is the fact that there's no good quality, consistency, quality,
Price.
and the price.
Yeah.
I mean, already that's now the problem now you decided to solve.
Yeah, because I thought I'm still solving the. Okay, so what happened is you think that your clientele is the individual. Then I turned back. It's like, no, it's not the individual. It's actually the final consumer, right? And then, but we're still somehow still addressing the individual in terms of, it's okay, we understand you're not a farmer, but at least your land, because we are not a land buying company. So we're just like, I'll go talk to the processor. They'll tell me you need to plant X number of acres a day, a week, a month, whatever it is. Remember, I don't have that kind of land. I'm not dynasty, guys. Don't.
So you can lease it from other people.
Just go lease it to other people.
Now
they are making an income. Their land is being utilized, and we are servicing the end consumer.
So it all sort of came full circle, and you ended up solving quite a few problems actually for different stakeholders, which is amazing. And you actually mentioned already some of the funding and investments. But that's sort of, I guess, what we want to move into next, in terms of what's been your experience with raising capital, to the extent you have raised capital, and I guess what's that been like for you, and also what do you look for perhaps in an investor beyond just the capital?
My first investment into Tukalime, apart from the beginning, the early years, now institutional investment, came from a very unlikely source. It was very interesting. And let me take you back a little bit. So when I came back, I had a choice to make in terms of my relations with people. Right? Remember, I had friends that they didn't leave the country, so they were here. And then my sis was here. So she was like ushering me into pretty much this is what needs to happen, this is what happens, da, da, da. And then I started hanging out with her friends naturally. So now it was very interesting as meeting these guys. And we actually still have a WhatsApp group and we call it the corner table. We used to meet every Friday, we used to meet at Mercury ABC. So, and for us at the time, we were living just directly opposite ABC. There's an estate across Wayaki Way. So it worked perfect. My sis worked at, she still does work at Java. So she worked at Java. So for her, she'll just come downstairs after work on Fridays. And Kevin here is unemployed. So for me, I'm just like, guys, I'm ready. What time are you guys meeting? And it was a very interesting, and I didn't realize until somebody mentioned that we would meet and just, again, not transactional. And meet and just talk about family, life, and fun. And then it wasn't like a party table where that we would be leaving the bar at 3 in the morning. These are guys who would be there at 5:30, almost like clockwork. And by 11, we used to call ourselves the first shift. By 11, guys have gone home to sleep. Then that actually conditioned me, even till today. Like yesterday, I was at Kengele's with same, and I'll explain about this gentleman, with another gentleman. And by 10:30, I was in bed.
Oh, you were in bed at 10:30.
Yeah, people are just like, it's just conditioned now, right? But just because it's what I learned. Right? And so anyway, we used to hang out and stuff, and Tukalime was doing its thing. Then I remember one of the gentlemen who I happened to be sitting with yesterday, he was like, what do you do? And I'm like, we manage farms for people and stuff like that. Then he's like, you need to meet my brother. At that time, his brother was incoming chairman of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. And they also owned a company called Coopers Kenya, which now has rebranded to CKL Africa. Now, CKL Africa is a company it's 120 something years old. Their dad bought it from some white guy, right? And their focus is they're a leading brand in animal health. So when he heard the story, what I was doing, he's like, you need to meet my bro, because they were trying to figure out they're a leading brand in animal health. How can they grow into crop production and pesticides and stuff? And they were like, so if this guy is managing managing farms for people, we can use it as an entry point for this, So met this guy, met the brother. Very nice family, like no frills. You wouldn't even tell who they are and stuff. And the girl's just like, yeah, I want to invest in you, and we did a quick negotiating, and then they were like, okay, fine, we'll give you $100,000. I remember it came from a situation where things were thick.
Yeah.
I'll give you $100,000. And then you'll come under our umbrella. So instead of hiring a CFO, HR, and blah, blah, we will charge you a fee that for using those services. You don't have to go hire. This can all be done in-house. You'll just pay a nominal fee and stuff like that. And now you can build Tukalime. This is 2019 now. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you just have to show up.
Yeah.
Right? You just have to show up. And I think and why I'm saying I had a choice, because I could have easily gone with my age mates and done the whole popping bottles and stuff, some bunny, some savings of US dollars and stuff. And then I don't think that gentleman would have vouched for me to his brother, to be like, they think we need to invest in Kevin, because they didn't invest in it because I didn't have a business.
Yes. They invested in the idea.
They invested in the idea and the person.
Yes, indeed.
Actually, one of the things that I know was a prerequisite in they call it matters precedent before you sign the deal was you have to get Keyman's insurance. Because you are the business.
Yes,
there's nothing. You have no vehicles, no plant and machinery. And so, that's why we got the first investment. And it was very interesting because two things, and I skipped a small part, but it's all about investment. But before I signed that deal, because now I started making waves in the industry, waves in terms of just showing up, and like I would explain to people this the whole agri process without even charging them. This is what I do, and then posting on social media. When you're a startup in the beginning, at least as you're the accountant, the social media guy, So I used to push a lot, and then I had a lot of friends in media, so they would help repost and stuff. I would do interviews on radio and stuff like just from that. That's not the imposter because you're like, I'm telling these guys I can farm for them. I have this big dream. And you'd go to KISS and you'd go to Homeboys Radio and all these things. So because you have to create awareness that you exist. And I remember meeting, there's a lady who called me and it's like, I heard you do agriculture, Can you come and help us? And I'm like, okay, I met her La Grenier. And there I'm just like, we can do this, we can solve this. But at this point, I'm kind of now a little bit seasoned. So I'm not green. At least I know the fundamentals. And they're like, I need you to meet my bosses. So I met the two founders and we met and they're like, you need to join us. And they were talking this big game and stuff. I mean, brilliant guys. And that time, the Coopers guys had already told me they want to invest in me. So I had a choice. Here you're being told you're salo. You remember I went from, by the way, no steady income. Yeah. And here, somebody telling you, you're going to be earning maybe close to $1 million a month. Just because you now have spent your 10,000 hours learning something, now you become a subject matter expert. Yeah. And I turned it down. Wow. Because first of all, trust me, it was a tough decision. I told that oh my God, that principal. No. It was tough. Yeah. But you never guess who? Did you know who those were? And they wanted me to join their C-suite.
Which entity is that?
Twigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you turned out money, you guy. And you're looking for money. So how does this work anyway?
No. You see, the thing is, but I had to reach wide in terms of your kitchen cabinet. You always have a kitchen cabinet. And you have to be like, what should I do? And they're like, money is good, but then also you're going to help them build their baby and you have your baby. Yes. So it's a very tough decision, by the way. It's almost it's a tough decision. Yeah. But then what I did, I turned it down. But what I said, you guys don't have an exec in this role, but I will consult as you guys are going to find the right person for this role. So I consulted for them about 2 years. So that even sweetened the deal for Coopers because they're like, he's coming with ready business.
Yeah. And that's very interesting. It reminds me of something someone said to me, which is like, there's no in business. It's just let's keep talking.
Let's
or
keep
let's
talking.
let's see.
never
Let's
know.
have a chat. Let's figure it out.
Yes.
Right, that type of thing. So keeping that door open and reaping that reward. You've also mentioned some other really cool things, like the fact that your first investment came with more than just money. Right,
Yeah.
came with this operational assistance, and so going beyond just the capital and the right opportunity finding you at the right place and just putting yourself out there. All really cool points and things that we've sort of had discussions about, but it's refreshing to see this come from someone who's been in the trenches and has seen it and can sort of speak to this from a first-hand experience.
And the thing is, like, you're right, because apart from the money, then I was told to choose now. Now we are formalizing the business.
Yeah.
Because these are guys, not that serious guys. They're just like, you're going to do this thing of your books have to be right.
Yeah, corporate governance.
Yes. So create a board. And by virtue of their investment, which was a convertible note, so it wasn't, it was very interesting. Create a board, and I was just like, they were going to take 3 seats, and I was going to have 2 seats. Remember, I don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
I'm just like, thank you for the money.
You can even take all the board seats
You can even
if
take
you
all the
want.
board seats. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
And for me, now going back to the genesis of the story, it was very easy to choose who was going to be
on the board. Your 2 seats, yeah.
In my 2 seats. So it was going to be me, and it was going to be my sister.
Yeah.
Because remember the genesis of the where we've come from in terms of her supporting the dream, and it just made perfect sense in terms of investment. Just going back to your question, I mean, it's at some point I thought I wasn't ready for it, because I didn't think that I had something worth investing in. Until you get to some point and you're like, I have something valuable, and you start now valuing yourself differently. And then that's where it makes sense.
So tell us about scaling your business. So what have been the critical factors that have contributed to the growth of your business? I know you've already touched on a few of them,
Yes.
like meeting an investor who made an investment in your business, a few engagements here and there. But maybe briefly, what would you, if you were to summarize or even add a few, what are those critical factors that have contributed to your growth?
I think the thing is, because you want also investment and business to come in, you have to keep on improving in terms of what how you're delivering your services, right? What, now you start honing down on, remember we're talking about those 4 tenets, the price, consistency and stuff. Now you hone in more onto it, right? And you're just like, okay, fine. If there are these guys who have, the issue becomes, it's homogeneous in terms of everybody is suffering from the same thing.
Yeah.
So that means there are more people looking for the same service that you're offering.
Yeah.
And once you hone in on that, you hit, it's like you're mining, and you hope you hit a rich vein of flow in terms of people who are looking for the issue, right? And we're scaling up also, as you continue adding on to your 10,000 hours, you can still always add on, right? Because education is always, it's something that's continuous. And scaling up came from a situation where, one of the people that we thought that needed our services was the school feeding program that you're seeing right now, right? This is before they joined with the governor. But we knew they needed the rice and the beans, because these guys are now feeding, I think they are now at maybe 400,000 kids a day or something like that. It's ridiculous. I knew the need was rice and beans and maize. How can we lock that down? And then as you're doing that, what also other founders and other guys who are trying to get into business to understand, sometimes the incubation of a deal in terms of either client or money, sometimes could take 6 months to a year. Once it's almost the same way you calculate the conversion of a client, you also calculate the conversion of a client and also like money, right? So, for example, one of our biggest clients that has been allowed us to scale to where we are, when we started with 3 acres and now we're at 3,000 acres, and we hope to double that by December. Got a chance call from somebody from the overseas, from Europe, and was just like, we've heard about you, and it's like, good things, I hope, not bad things.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is what we want to do in Kenya, and we want to scale, and we think that you guys are the right people to do.
Awesome.
And you just grow.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
Sounds like a great opportunity, and like
Yeah.
you're taking that really by the horns, and hopefully by end of the year you will have been able to sort of double that number.
But that's what we've been training for.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be training for a marathon and then do a
Right.
5K.
Opportunity.
Yeah, 5K, of course.
Opportunity meets preparedness.
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
So, I guess on a different note, what's
Yeah.
the worst mistake you've made as an entrepreneur, or the toughest decision you've had to make?
I think they go hand in hand, probably. But it was a calculated mistake at some point. Is accepting expensive money, because money has a cost, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
And I remember now, like going back to the school feeding program, and we signed up for them to supply 40% of their needs. And that's a time when the drought had really peaked. Remember, 2 years ago, the drought was really bad. And then Ukraine and Russia started doing their thing. Cost of fertilizer went up. Remember, we had signed a contract based on historical data. So we're saying we can supply you X at this amount. And once you do your all analysis, you're like, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
But it really was that bad. And they had paid us a down payment. We had to pay it back. And I had to take expensive money. And why I'm saying it's a calculated mistake, because it was a decision between, I can go back to the contract and say force majeure, right? Things have happened beyond my control. And that's a reputational risk. A lot of people don't calculate reputational risk. Or I could go take expensive money and pay it off and figure out how to pay this other person back. So, and I'm talking about taking money at 30%.
Per what?
So you're pretty much borrowing like 2.5 million.
Yeah.
And paying back 3.2 in like 2 months.
That was very expensive.
That's very expensive.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's it's either this or that.
Got you.
So which one is worse? The reputational risk, somebody saying that, oh, you took an NGO's money and you're like force majeure.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Because the thing about money, once you look at it in terms of you can always make money. You will make money, by the way. It's not, don't be like today, if one of my guys said, oh, I had an accident with the company vehicle, I won't be like, is the car okay? I'll be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because the rest is it's numbers.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
What do you think is the most important lesson you've learned in your entrepreneurship journey?
Goes back to what we were saying just now. Your reputation. You have to guard it with everything you have. Today, you could lose a client, you could lose everything, but then if you can still walk in through the doors of different buildings and different opportunities, holding your head high without ducking elevators and not seeing people, it's very important, because you can always regenerate. That's important. And then also one thing that I realized, and it's always in the back of my mind, if you whichever partnerships you have, whether it's with your bank, your clients, whoever, your suppliers, whatever it is, make sure it's symbiotic, right? Play it forward, right? Like if you've invested in us, I need to figure out, whenever I'm walking into a room and looking at opportunities for myself, I'm also looking for opportunities for you or for whoever else has played forward with us. Because what happens there, you create an ecosystem, right? If that person grows, you also grow. It's never look at it as individualistic. You have to be able to look at it as, how do I build that ecosystem? How do I, like now, for example, let's say, for example, the school feeding program, right? At one point, they were really mad because you promised this and paid them back. And at one point, the person who introduced me, of course, they got burnt, right? Because Kevin came and didn't deliver. But then fix a situation and find them a solution to solve whatever needs they have.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, nobody is going to say that, first of all, your reputation is intact, but also you've built an ecosystem. Yeah. It's important.
Amazing.
Impressive.
I guess a quick one in terms of, we've talked about lows or toughest decision you've had to make. What about a high? Like a particular moment that for you is maybe the highest moment in your entrepreneurship journey?
I don't think I've reached there. Every day is a yo-yo.
Yeah.
But I'll say, when it happens in a very unlikely spaces. It can happen with friends and stuff. When someone tells you, by the way, you know what, you're really who you think you are, you know?
Yeah.
Then you're like, really? Because you never feel, because you're always putting out fires and stuff. It's never sunny days and stuff like that. I think when the high is, and I know this sounds a little bit corny, it's that impact. It could even be a friend who's like, by the way, I remember how you started with this. And I don't, there's a friend of mine who tells me, I don't know, you and God are in you have a conference every day.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I don't know how you do it. But that impact, when someone tells you, you know, I'm really, really, I look up to you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So and then again from your experience, what do you consider to be the three most what do you consider to be three things that are extremely important in terms of the success of an entrepreneurial venture?
Number one, you have to have tenacity, right? You have to have tenacity. You have to have, remember what I was saying, like, even though things are dire, you have to always be able to see the silver lining beyond the issue. You can't focus on the issue, focus on the solution. And the other thing is, I think you need, because it's a very lonely journey, you need a sense of community. It doesn't have to be a lot of people. It can even be two people, one person, but you need that sense of community. Because sometimes when things are really not going right, you just need somebody to tell you it's gonna be it's okay, imagine.
Yeah.
You know? That's very important. Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tenacity, sense of community. Don't get cancelled. Don't get your reputation
Yeah,
messed up.
don't.
And you're him. You're who you think you are.
You're who you
I'm
think
loving
you are.
it. One on just your long-term vision. What are you thinking in terms of your exit plan? And I know, sometimes it's a touchy topic. We've asked some founders, like, what's your exit plan? And they're like, why are you asking me about exits? I'm in this thing for life, right? Which we totally get. Some people, this is the business they want to build and live with the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Other people want to build it to a certain point and perhaps sell or, hand it down to someone else in the family or something. What for you what do you see as your next step or your succession or your exit?
So, right now, so we're operating in Kenya, right? And we're at 3,000. We'll probably be at, God willing, 6,000 at the end of the year. We're also opening in Zambia and Mozambique. And now it starts forming in terms of the exit, right? You have to create something that's bigger than you, that goes beyond you, that has the structures that can that don't need you really. Now you're looking at a vision. You're not in terms of the day-to-day mechanics. It's more like this is where we're going and this is what we're doing. To be honest, if I exit doesn't mean that I leave the company. It just means that I get a talented individual to be able to push to the next level. Because I feel sometimes you get fatigued and jaded and your ideas start becoming stale. You need, and that's why, you want to change presidents and stuff like that, because you need a different set of ideas. And even right now, I'm constantly looking for an individual to be able to come, run the company. Let me do other things. I really want to teach. Just because I feel like, yes, there's a textbook stuff that's there in terms of in college, but there's stuff that they won't teach you, man. I'll tell you the real truth.
Yeah.
But for me, it's in terms of 5 years, I don't want to be in the same position. I don't want, I think there are people out there who just need that opportunity and they can drive it to a different place.
No? And I'm sure you're already teaching, really. You're providing a lot of
insights. I am trying.
So your sister's syllabus and your syllabus. I'm waiting for those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of the industry and the startup ecosystem, agribusiness, maybe agri-tech, what trends in the startup ecosystem excite you? What do you notice and that makes you excited about the future?
So I'll do a two-pronged thing, right?
Yeah.
So what doesn't excite me is the focus on, you have to focus on the building blocks also. So there's a big, and I always get in trouble for saying this, there's a big push on agri-tech, let's say, for example. Yet the farmer that you're trying to sell an app that can predict the weather and predict all that things can't afford a bag of fertilizer. It's warped. You have to solve how can they be able to afford this to be able to do that? That's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you could put, people are going to say we can put sensors in the soil to tell the moisture and stuff. This guy cannot afford seed. He's actually, have you ever seen somebody like taking tomatoes and milking the seed, drying them to replant them because they can't afford to buy the seed from the shop? That's how dire it is. But the exciting part is, right now, I think globally, the understanding that the climate change issue is huge, is something that people know. Like right now, I think it was yesterday, it was cold. The other day it was cold. We're not supposed to be this cold in Nairobi.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, this time of the year, yes.
During Christmas, you guys remember this.
Yeah.
During Christmas, it's going to rain during that time because seasons have moved and shifted and stuff like that. So I like that push in terms of trying to figure out how can we solve this problem, because populations are just going to continue growing. People are still going to get born.
Yeah.
And if we don't solve that issue, we're going to have a big problem, especially with food security.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to just go into some of the fun ones now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fun, but I think more inspirational, which is, this one's what we call the founder's time capsule.
All right.
Which is, if we were to transport you into the future and we were to put you in front of a room of the next generation of founders on the continent who are going to build the things that are going to revolutionize and change the way we live life, the way agriculture is done, anything.
Yeah.
And you had to say one thing to them. What's the one thing that you would say to that next generation of founders?
I think what I would tell them is, oh man, there's so many things I would say. But
I know.
one of the things the first thing that comes into mind is the problem you're trying to solve really a problem?
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
don't even need to explain
enough
it
said.
further.
No,
Yeah.
a lot of companies are having issues because it wasn't really a problem. You have, I'll just give you a small example.
Yeah.
You have a situation where you have maybe a guy will get a van, and I'm not discounting anybody's, I'm just saying, is it a problem? You have to wonder, is it an issue you're trying to solve? You'll equip a van with a barber and stuff like that, and you go around estate shaving people's head. You'd think, yeah, it's a convenience, right?
Yeah.
But personally, my barber has shaved me since I was like 16. There's a relationship that we already have, right? Also, going to the barber shop is also an experience at it, right? I always take my nephew, the dads, because I'm just passing it on. So you coming to shave my head at home, I'm not having a problem going to the barber. It's not a problem.
Yeah, makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? It's not
100%.
You will get a client, but it's not. Is it scalable? Is it a problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
And we can attest, I think, to the relationship. We've spoken about our barbers at length on this
And it's a
podcast,
very personal.
and the
It's a
relationships
personal
we have.
thing.
They waited for us actually yesterday because electricity was gone.
Yeah.
And so they waited till electricity came back, and then we went to get our haircuts. But anyway, shout out to our barbers again.
Never cheat on your barber.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one.
So here is a surprise question for you. If you were to have a superpower, what would that superpower be and why?
I would say it's not even a superpower, but it's a very lame superpower, by the way.
Okay.
Hey, it's your
Provided it's
superpower.
yours.
But it's one thing that I pray to God all the time is wisdom. Maybe what's his name? I'm trying to think of this Marvel guy. Is it the guy who does
Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
You want wisdom because every day we make decisions, right? And you want to make sure that you're making decisions for your loved ones in terms of what affects them, for your staff, for your partners, for everything. So I don't want to fly. I just want wisdom. Like, just don't use which barabara is this that is being built over here? Don't use that road. Use the other one. Just wisdom, really. I think I have really come from a situation where I don't want for much, but I'm always thinking about, am I a good brother? Am I a good uncle? Am I a good friend? To my employees, I'm always like, if I'm driving you to this park, we're going to Mozambique, let's say, for example. Everybody's just like, no, I don't think so. You should do. I actually, you get all this information. Am I leading them to a path of righteousness, or is it going to be hell
Wow.
Yeah, understood. Amazing.
Kevin the Wise.
Yeah.
We pray
I
that
hope
wisdom
so.
continues.
Yeah,
to-
unlimited
I'm
wisdom.
sure there's an ex somewhere who's just like, he's
This
lying.
guy.
Hopefully that X is a subscriber. Like, comment, share with others.
They'll be fine. They'll be
The ex is
fine.
wondering,
Okay.
when did he start getting all
I
this
know.
wisdom?
I know, right? Yeah.
Kwani, I'm the one who gave him that
I'm
wisdom.
telling you, there's somewhere just with a doll, just effigy doll, just poking
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
So interesting thing of the week. So we have a segment where we just talk about anything that we found interesting during this week.
Yes.
So it could be anything. Do you have something interesting that you saw or heard this week that you'd like to share?
Well, this week has really flown by. So really, I haven't caught my breath. But I was listening to something last night, I think, and it was Jamie Foxx, and he was talking about, the yin yang sign,
Mhm.
and he was saying, the yin yang sign. One of the things you can interpret from it is whenever you have like sunshine or things are going well,
Yeah.
you best believe and best be prepared for the downside.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing I've seen to them. It's like that's true actually, and then
Yeah.
you wouldn't be. I mean, that thing they say like you don't know you can't appreciate sunshine
Mm.
without the rain. You have to see both
Indeed.
sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and also helps
Wow.
you appreciate the sunshine, right? Because you know that the rain could be there.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's very interesting, especially also for people who worry a lot. It's like you're
It's
rubbing
okay.
the joy for what's to come. Just enjoy this
Imagine.
because that will come too,
If,
right?
if you take time to just breathe, like
Yeah.
the way like sometimes I get hit by an issue, and I always tell my staff or if there's friends, I'm just like, let me sleep on it.
Mm.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
the solution comes, and sometimes it's like solution might be the worst thing,
Mm.
but then it stops. It your worry goes right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tim, you have an interesting thing for the week?
Well, I do have an interesting thing for the week, and it's good. It's coming from golf.
Okay.
So
we love golf.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
play golf. So yesterday we played around, and it was one of my worst rounds in a long time. I had been having good times, good rounds, and number one, I remember when before I set off, I had set targets for myself, what I wanted to achieve, and they were sort of high targets. Yeah, what I wanted to achieve for that particular round. Started with the first hole, which was terrible. And then somehow from that experience of a bad hole, it gave birth to so many other situations before you can recalibrate and put yourself back. Until at some point I told myself, you know what? I'm not following the script anymore. I'll try to play a good round. But ultimately, my interesting thing of the week was whatever could have gone wrong yesterday just went wrong. Sometimes I hit balls and they bounce off the right place and they go the right direction and you're lucky. But yesterday, if it could bounce off just next to the water, it went into the water. If it could stray to the out of bounds just by a bit, it strayed out of bounds just out of a bit. So the lesson I picked is that sometimes when you have good successes, do not be cocky about it. Some factors helped you that were beyond you, and you need to be grateful. And when you have bad moments, you need to appreciate that they don't necessarily last, but maybe you need to get your share of bad breaks. It's just what happens in life. So that was my interesting thing of the week yesterday.
Wow. And
Yeah.
I was there, I witnessed it.
Yeah.
Can attest. And
Terrible
you
day,
see
yeah?
Character development, right?
Yeah.
He's able to now share a good story and
Yeah.
some lessons on during the show. So, hey, but don't worry, it's only getting better. Don't worry.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. So my interesting thing of the week, I was watching there's a YouTuber I watch. His name's Mark Tilbury. He's a very fascinating guy. He's lived a life. He started in carpentry, then he built a business doing like bespoke aeroplane things that he sold, and he's made so much money. And now in his later years, I think he's like 50s, 60s, he's doing a new thing, which is now starting a YouTube channel, which is completely new to him, but he's doing it because he wants to provide financial lessons to younger generation, people in the younger generation that are coming through and that might not have the lessons that he had when he was doing his business.
Yeah.
So he's a fascinating guy. Check him out if you can. But he talked about a time when he went to China as part of his building his business. and he learned this Chinese proverb, which really stuck with me. It goes, "The man who blames others has a long way to go on his journey. The man who blames himself is halfway there. The man who blames no one has already arrived." And I listened to this, I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. And it's sort of, I mean, you can sort of take lessons from it as you choose. The one I take from it is about, accepting responsibility and not trying to put blame on other people, on other things. So there's that part of accepting the responsibility for things that you've done or the mistakes you've made, but then also graduating to that point where it's not about pointing blame or even blaming yourself. It's just accepting that life is this way. Mistakes happen. The ball hits this thing and it goes in the water.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And you live and you learn from it and you try to move forward in whatever way you can. So that for me is what I took from that lesson. He was doing it within the context of financial advice and such, but I think it's a much bigger lesson. Yeah. And I thought it was really cool. And I've done interesting things of the week that are not in any way deep or profound. So this week I was like, let me do something a little better for the audience. So that's my interesting thing of the week. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. So that's the show, guys. Thank you for sticking around as long as you have. This was a really fascinating episode. Thank you to Kevin for being our guest.
Thank you,
We
guys.
really appreciated having you on the show. Check him out. Kevin, is there anywhere you would like people to follow you or look for more information about you or Tukalime?
I think our website is tukalime.com.
Okay.
Very simple. And probably LinkedIn. I think that's better. I think on other social networks, I'm not that interesting.
Awesome. Slide into his DMs on LinkedIn. So that's been Kevin. That's the Full Scale Podcast for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be seeing you next week. Be sure to check out our weekly challenge on the weekend that will be coming out on all our socials. Follow, like, share, subscribe, share with your friends and your enemies. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.